बस सफेद बाल्टी उठाइए, गीला कपड़ा भरा नहीं, हम पूरे तो गीले रखे हैं ना, दोनों बाल्टी उठा ली, सफेद और लाल। खाली करके अच्छे से लाल कलोरी, लाल बाल्टी खाली है ये अंदर।
Hello everyone, we have to discuss about that UPSC GS paper theory and science and item preparation. देख लेते हैं क्वेश्चन।
अरे जैसे वाले दे सकते हैं कि भाई यार वो लाल बाल्टी कहेगी, कपड़े डाल लेते हैं ऊपर सूख पे, और डाल को गई थी कपड़ा ने ऊपर
और रखे हैं बामे पे डाले नहीं।
अरे मान नहीं डाले यार, डालना मैं बाल्टी लिया और पूरे घर में गीले वाला
कपड़ा दे बेटा। तो किया इसको क्या
अरे वो गीले भरा लूं मैं बामे पूरे बिल जब तक मैं डाल गई फिर और डाल ले जाने दो ही बाल्टी। अरे पूरे ये रखे हैं बामे।
गाड़ी का चला रहा हूँ। Major crop cropping pattern in various part of the country and the different type of the irrigations and the irrigation system and storage, transport and the marketing of the agriculture production and the issues and related to the consistency and eco technology in the aid of the farmers. The significant increase in India. In India, enable oil important and over the past decades and has the multifarious impact on the economic and the policy. Vehicle must need to the implement and measures to address the challenges posed by the surge in the important and promoting a sustainable and resilience and enable oil sectors and in the country and analysis to 50 minutes. Difficulty level moderate and Indian expression by the questions. India is the second largest consumer of the renewable oils and globally, and it's the largest and importers, and while the government has taken the several initiatives over the years and to the increase the domestic productions of the renewable oils and its storage shortage and high prices are often in the news. Key demands of the questions to write about the impact of the important of the renewable oils and based to the address it directive what's analyze. When asked to the analysis, you must the examine the methodological, the structure or the nature of the topic and by the separating it into the component and part and the present them in a summary. Structure of the answer and introduction begin by the giving context and body. First write and about the storage of the renewable soils and important and its impact. Next write about the measures and that are the needed to the overcomes and the overcome the above. Conclusion include and with other way forward. Introduction. India renewable oil impact and has the reasons and almost 1.5 times and more than the double. More than the double in rupees value. In rupees value terms and during the last 10 years and India needed 25% and per years and out of the total requirement and 10.50 million and the tons are the produced domestically and from the primarily and the soybean, repeated and the mustard and groundnuts and sunflowers, the safflowers and nuggets, and secondly sources oil palms and the coconut, rice, palm bran, cotton seed and the trail and tree born oil seed and remains 70% is made and through the import body. Import of renewable oil. Import of renewable oil and important of vegetables oil. Use in the cookies and trying used in packing and the flying of the floods and as opposed to the petroleum. Fuel touched a record on 16.5 million tons and empty in the years and ended. ended October 2023, and according to the data and from the Solvented and Extruders Associated of India SEA and right. And what happened from the 14th and MT and of the 2021 and 22 oil year? Oil year. While up from the 14 MT of the 2021 and 22 and oil years, the value of the imported and fell both in the dollars and from the $19.6 billions to the 16.7 billions and the rupees and the 15 lakh 68,000 crore and to the rate and 13 lakhs and 8,424 crore stumps and on the back. During the previous 10 years, reason for edible oil and import the dependence in India. Reason for edible oil and import dependent in India. India import and dependent in this and has the wasn't worsened and to over the 70% oilseed and the growers in India and are in the distress as a result of the increase and import and the planets and average acreage and has the signated and the yield also the continues to be the abysmally and low and this is the primarily and because the grower have no the incentives and to improve the agro and the practices. The market availability of the crops and ground and eight is also weakened as the price support and the mechanism is nearly non-existent. Market liberal and the policies with the zero or the low rate. Low rate of the duty and free market operations of the last and 25 years and have contributed into the unfair and important and this has the working against the protecting the interested of the domestic and growers and about the 10 to the 15% of the current import and the volumes is the speculative and driven and it is the often represented stock transferred and from the Indonesia and the Malaysia to India. Hug investors and of as the much and as the 2 billions. About 10 to 15 of the current important volumes is spectrum and driven. It's the often represented stock transfer from the Indonesia and Malaysia to India. Hug industries of the such of as the much and as the 2 billion tons and are often हाँ जाओ बिल्लो दीदी ढूंढ ले. This was worked against the protecting and the interested of the domestic grounds and about the 10 to the 15 and of the current import and volumes is the speculations and driving it is often the represented and stock the transfer from the Indonesia and Malaysia to India. Hug industries of as such as the 2 billions and tons and are of tons pulled up in the India's in tons the affected the domestic market. Measures to the boost domestic production of enable oil. measures to the boost domestic production of the edible oil, and India has other serious import dependency in the edibles. Edible oil, one of the biggest and the contractor to the raising oilseed output, has been that production is largely and in the rain and shade areas. Only 1/4 of the oilseed and producing areas in the country and remain under the irrigation. And in the 1986 government has launched other technology missions and on the oil seeds and to improve the productivity, and this result is some growth, and but then the growth in this the feed has been sluggish body only. Current government is promoting the national mission on the oil seed and the oil palm and the NMOOP, and during the 2012 and 17, and this mission has some the clears and cut the objectives such as the increasing seeds and implementage ratio and SRR, and is oil the crops and with the focus on the bilateral and the replacement. Increasing irrigation coverage under the oil seed and from the 26% and 36%. Diversification of areas and from the low yielding areas. Crops to oilseed and crop enter the croppings of the oilseeds and with the carols and pulses in sugarcane. Use of fallow and the land after the paddy and potatoes and cultivation as expansion of the cultivations of oil palms and tree-borne oilseed in the watershed and the water wastelands. Increasing availability of the equalities and the painting and material, enhancing the productions of oilseed and the collection and the processing of the tree-borne and oilseed. National missions and on the edibles oil and NMEO to increasing domestic availability and reduce the important dependency on the national missions on edible oil and NMEUN is posed for the next 5 years and 2020 and 21 and 24 and 25. NMEUN covering the three sub and the mission to increase the production of the oil seeds are edible oil and from the primary and sources annual crops and plantations and crops and the edibles and TBO and secondary sources and rice the bran and oil and the cotton seed and etc. Consumer awareness for the maintenance and the edibles oil and the consumption content with 1900 kilometers and per person and the per annum. The proposed mission and bill I am to the increase. I am to increase production of the 30.88 and the 47.80 millions and tons of the oil seed and which will the produce on the 7 to the 11 million tons of the edibles oils and from the primary and sources by 2024 and 25, and similarly the edibles oils and from the secondary sources and will be the doubled from the 3.50 7 million tons. Following action point will be the initiated and for the increasing production and the productivity of the oil seeds and promotion of the secondary sources and of the edibles oil and increasing seed replacement. जब पर्दा लगा दे The proposed mission will aim and to the increase production and from the 30.88 and 47.80 million tons of the oil seed and which will be the introduced in 7 to the 11 million tons and of the edible oils and from the primary sources and by the 2024 and 25. Similarly edible oils and from edibles oil and from the secondary sources and will be the doubled and from the 350 to the 7 million tons. The following action point and will be the initiative for the increasing production and the productivity of oil seeds. and promotion of the secondary sources of the edible soil and increasing the seed replacement and rate, the varietal replacement rate and promotion of the oilseed and in the rice and follow potatoes areas and promotions of the oilseed and through the inter cropping, extending oilseed and the cultivations in the non-traditional areas, targeting the 100 lows productivity districts and crop the diversifications in different regions and promotions of the communities and based oil the extractions and units the value limits ODOs and the promotion of the export value addition and the promotion of import promotion of the rice grain and the cottons and cottons oil seed consumer awareness for the delicious and the consumer awareness for the directions and consumptions of the oil and for the food for the good health and the consumer consumption. Conclusion: India must become and the self-sufficient in the edible oil production, and this and the must becomes other part of the India's and the Atmanir and the Bharata and the certain did the duo complaints and the incentives and must be the given to the farmers and in increasing the growth of oil seeds and production in the country and to ensure domestic cultivations. There is a need for तो गर्म पानी होगा आप लेना there is a need for the integrating and the climate smart approach and into the agriculture to ensure the food security and the reduce the environment impact and the enhances the resilience to the climate changes. Discuss the 251 and difficulties level moderate reference down to earth and by the questions and aid the Africans concern on the agriculturals and technologies and expert discuss the importance of making an urban agriculturals and the climate smart and key demand of the questions and to bring and the interlinkage between the climate changes and the farmings and poverty and alleviations and the food securities in India and the role climate smarts and agricultures can play in this the regard. Discuss. This is an all and the encompassing directive. You must debate on papers and by going through the details of the issues and concern by the examining and each one of them. You must give reason for both for and the against argument structure of the answer introduction being by the definition climate smarts and agriculture body. First write about the describing the vegetaries and of the agriculture and brought about by the climate changes and such as the higher ambience temperature and less the predictables and rain the frequent drought and the cyclones. Next, write about the major features of the climate and smart the agriculture and the benefits affected by. Write about the major feature of the climate smart agriculture and benefits and offerings by the climate smart agriculture and increase the stable productivity and the strength and farmer the resiliences and the reduce agriculture and greenhouse and gas emission and increase the carbon and the sequestrations sustaination with example. Next, mention the limitations and associations with by the climate smart agriculture and way to the overcome. Conclusion. Conclude by writing a way and forward introduction and the climate changes directly and affected the agriculture production. Is this sector is the inherently and the sensitive to the climate's conditions and is one of the most vulnerable sectors and aid the risk and the impact.
नहीं पूरी रात के पास्ता खाना यार तो क्या कर रहे मंगोड़ी में बनानी शाम ठंड लग रही है
Global Climate Change and FAO and the defines and the climate smart agriculture CSA as the agricultural that the sustainability and increase the productivity and enhances the resiliences adaptations and reduce the removes and GHGs and the mitigations and where the possible and enhances the achievement of the national food security and development goals. Body need for the climate and smart agriculture in India and the India agricultural ecosystem is the distinguished by the high monsoon dependence and with the 85% smalls and the marginal land holdings. It is highly sensitive to the weathers and abnormalized. There has been less than the normal rainfall during the last 4 years and with the 2014 and 15 declared as the drought years. There are also the report of and the escalations in the heat waves and which in the tons effective crop and the aquatic systems and livestock. मोड़ा इतना ही लेके आऊँ मैं The Economic Survey 2017 and 18 has the estimated and farms the incomes lows are between the 15% and the 80% on the averages and which could rise to the 20 से लेकर के 25% of the uni-regulated and areas and without running the policies. Intervention and thus the projections and underline the need and for the strategic changes in the dealings with climate changes in agriculture and there will be and the increased risk of the pest and decreased diseases due to change and to the pattern of the host and the patronage and the interactions and for every 2 degrees and rise in the temperature and the agriculture GDP of India and will the reduce and by the 5%. The recent locust attack is also the attributed to the climate changes and which can have the highly and the disastrous effect on the food and security. Poor agriculture performance can lead to the inflations, farmer distress and the unrest and the largest politics and the social defections. Distractions all which and can the hold and break the economic and it will be the forces and farmers to the either adapt to the changes of the climate changes or the face the risk of the getting poorer. Poorer climate is mass agriculture and solving the food security and climate changes problems and increase the productivity and the produce more food and the neutrality security and boost the income of 75% of the world poor and who lives कछु गुच्छी करता ही रहता है मेरे पास तो मोय तो वारा मोटो का ये दे खाना और छोटा दो बारह दिन बाद में एक 12 मिनट काली कर ले 8 बादाम और 8 काजू निकाल लेंगे 7 बादाम 7 काजू और ये भी अच्छा मत निकाल Climate smart agriculture solves the food security and the climate changes problems. Increase productivity, hence resistance. Uh, Increase productivity, hence resistance, and reduce the emission and the livestock, the systems and forestry and the fisheries. Produce more food and to the improve the food and the nutrition and the security and boost the incomes of 75% of the world poor and who live in the rural areas and the mainly rely on the agriculture and for their the livelihood and the hence enhances resilience, the reductions and vulnerability and to the drought, pest and the diseases and other the shocks and the improve the capabilities to the adapt and grow in the face of the longest terms and stress and like the shortness season and the erratic weathers and patterns and the reduced emissions and pursues lowers the emissions and for each and the calories and or the kilo of the food's productions and avoid the deforestation from the agriculture and the identify way to the shucks carbon out of the atmosphere and the climate smart agriculture approach seek to reduce and trade off to the make crops and the livestock system and the forestry and fisheries and the agricultures more productions and more the sustainable and climate smart agriculture actively and looks for where and there are the synergies and the trade off among food security and adaptation and the mitigations and climate smart agriculture and works through the several dimensions and to the reorient agriculture's development and management to talk the climate change into the account and the management of the farms and crops the livestock aquacultures and the captures fisheries to the balance nears the terms and for the security and livestock livelihood and need with the priorities and for the adaptation and the mitigations ecosystem and landscapes management to the concern ecosystem services and that are the important for food securities and agriculture development adaptation and mitigations way forward and the conclusions farmer especially and the small holders and the farmers need the hand holdings during their the scalings and up to the adapt CSA and mobile the telecommunication system and are the increasingly cost effectively and the efficiency way of the delivering weather and best agro the adversaries and to the farmers at other large scales. Kisan app radio especially and community radio and television and newspapers and folk medias and village levels and public address system and will also need to be the used and to the bridge this the communication divided and whether best agro the adversaries and must be the local and the specifies and crops and the farmers specific needs to the also recommends soil water and the biodiversity conservation practices and integrating with the this with and the soil health card and the schemes and will be a the good step forward but adaptive and the capabilities to climates and variabilities and the strength and sustainability of farming system on the site and training and the awareness composition technology demonstrations and farmer specialists and the interactions and the engagement with the local governance bodies soil health and the need based irrigations and management need to be the addressed and the adequately closer and the collaborations between the public civil societies and the private technology and financial services providers and so that the finance get access to the accurate information and the affordable technologies conclusion. Overall, climate smart agriculture is other crucial. is the crucial approach and for the ensuring the sustainability and the resiliency of the agricultural system in the face of the climate change, and while also the contributing to the borders environment and socio-economically goal infrastructure, energy and port and road, airports and railway, etc. Integrating the policies and that the promote sustainability, resiliences and the innovation across the entire and energy ecosystem is crucial to achieve net zero carbon emission in India examined to 50%. Difficulty level through references the Hindus and Inside on India and by the question annual emissions reports and usually the times and close to the beginnings of the climate talks and the reiterated in the sharpers language and that the programs and sees the Paris Agreement (PA) of the 2015 has been the tardy and key demands of the questions and to write about the various obstacles and to the energy security in India and way to the ensures energy and security directive words. Examine ban asked to the examine and we must the investigates and the topic contact and bird in the detail and inspected. It investigated and it and the established and the key fact and ensures related to the topic in the questions. And while doing so, we should explain and why does the fact and issues are the important and their the implications. The structures of the answer introduction begin by giving context and regarding the energy and security in the country and body. First white about the various impediments meant to India and renewables energy sectors and high capital cost and lack of the transmissions and infrastructures, land acquisitions and storage, financial challenges, etc. And next, the right about the ways to balance between the clean and energy commitment while balancing energy security. Conclude with other way forward introductions. Net zero emission is the method of the balancing the greenhouse gas emissions in the atmosphere by the greenhouses gas and the absorptions and from the atmosphere in the zero carbon emission. The carbon will be focus on the limiting carbon emission but in net zero carbon the country and will focus on the bringing the net carbon emission to zero. Body background: at the 26 conferences of parties and COP26 and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi declared a five-fold strategy and the terms as the Panchamitra. And to achieve this, the feed and thus the five points includes and India Bill Gates and its the non-fossil energy capacities to 500 and gigawatt and GW and by the 2030 and India will the meet 50% of its the energy and requirement from the renewable energy by the 2013 and India will the reduce the total projected carbon emission by 1 billion tons and from the now and onwards till 2030. By the 2030 India will reduce the carbon intensity of the its the economics by the less than 45%. So by the years 20 and 70 and India will the achieve the targeted of the net zero and challenges of India and to achieve the carbon neutrality. India is the world third biggest emitters of the GHG and India per the capita CO2 and the emissions and it the 1.8 tons and per the persons in 2015 are the around the ninth of the those in the USA and the around the third of the global averages of the 4.8 tons per persons. And India must also meet the aspirations of the 1.4 billion and people for the faster economically development and this will limits an India development potential. India's Ba3 and Stables and 2070 net zero targeted and the intermediated goal and through the 2013 percentage significant policy implementation challenges for the government and meeting the nation exciting target of the 450 gigawatts of the enables and by the 2030 is already the massive lift and heating net zero and will the required and the even more the dramatically acceleration. By 250 India total the electricity demands and would be the about the 55,600 and terabyte hours TWH and roughly other factors of 5 on today level. on today level in developed and countries emissions has already the peaked there. The decisions is only about the path to net zero. Emerging and economics like the India instead and will go through the high growth phase with raising energy and demand and the emissions. So before other net zero years can be targeted, India must discuss the options and for it the picking years. India pursuit of its the targeted is the conditioners and upon the country and receiving up much is the 1 trillion and in the climate's finance and from the internal donors and cleaning and including and the multilaterals and development banks and advanced economies and the unlikely and prospect Indian bank and the significant loan to the carbon intensive and sectors expose them to the transitions risk and they will be face and pressure to the decarbonized and there the loan books. Many argues that net and zero is not and the equitables and fair as it's the done does not and differentiate and between the developing and developed countries and sharing the burden of the mitigations and some also the criticism mid-centuries and net zero as allowing the uncontrolled emissions and today while the railings and on the uncertain technologies to offset emission in the futures and many net zero and pledged are premised and upon trading and the offsettings emission allowing the rich and to continue the emissions and buying their the payout. Measures needed to achieve net zero emissions and focus on the energy efficiency and will need energy efficiency and building, lighting and appliances and the industrial practices and to meet the net zero goals. Increase uses of the biofuels and can help the reduce emissions and from the light and commercials and vehicles and the tractors in agriculture. In aviation, the only practical solutions for the reducing emissions is greater use of the biofuels until hydrogen technology gain scales transitions towards electrical vehicles. This will further and help the curb the carbon emissions and carbon the sequestrations and the India will have to the really on the new naturals and man-made carbon sinks to the sick shock up and there the emissions and tree can the capture 0.9 billion tons. The country will need in carbon capture and technologies to sequester the rest and carbon pricings. India will already taxes and coal and the petroleum fuels and should consider putting other tax on the emissions to drive the changes and developing lower carbon energy. There are the four main types of the low carbon energy and wind, solar and hydro or the nuclear power. The first three are the enables and which means and there are thus are the good and for the environment and as the natural resources and are the used and such as the wind or the suns to produce the electricity and the deploying the lowers carbon and energy and would help the address and both the domestic and international climates and challenges while simultaneous and improving the economical well-being of Indian citizens. India energy mix is the dominated by the coal and power electrical generation stations as of now the need of the hours and in the is increased the share of the renewables energy in this the energy mix and way forward for India giving the massive shift and the underways in the India's energy system and we would benefits taking from taking and stock of our the actions and forcing on the near term transitions and this will allow and use to the meet and even over the compulsory comply with our the 2030 and the targeted while also ensuring concomitant and development and benefits such as the developing the vibrant renewables industries. We can start putting in place the policies and infrastructure necessary to move use in the right direction for the longest terms and also the better and understand and through the modelings and the other studies and the implications of net zero. zero scenario before making the net zero pledge, and it would also be in the India interested to link the any features and pledge to the achievement of the near terms and actions by the industrialized countries. That would be the fair and the consistent with the principle of the UNFCCC, and also the enhances the facility level of our the urban and actions and thorough for the example and increasing the availability and the reducing cost of new the mitigations and technologies. Value addition missions the undertaken and by the GOI and the towards its the visions of the net zero emissions. In 2021, and India launched the national hydrogens and mission aiming to the transport the country and into the hydrogen exporters, and this will not and only the reduce on India's the dependence on the crude oil and but also the contribute to reducing the greenhouse and gas emissions. India has set ambitious and the ethanols and blending the targetings and aiming to achieve 20% ethanols and blending the with the petrol by the 2025. The promotion of the electric vehicles and through the FAM India's schemes in another crucial step as per the Niti Aayog vision document. 30% of the total vehicles and on India's road and by the 2030 and will be the electrical vehicles. The new vehicles and the scrapages policies and incentives and consumers to replace their old more and populating vehicles and with the electrical or hydric ones. India is also focusing on the carbon storage and the capturing CCS and technologies to remove the greenhouse gases before they enter the atmosphere. And however, thus the technologies are the currently expensive and complex, necessarily and effort for the technologies and transfer. India plans to the implemented and large scale the interventions in the 5 key sectors and energy and the electricity and transport, urban design and industries and forestry. Question: India has significant scope and opportunity in the solar energy sectors, and the government has implemented various measures and to promote the solar energy. Discuss the 250 words. Indian Express insight on India and the why the questions. Article discussion the significance of the decentralized and energy system, and particularly and the solar system and the particularly solar energy in enhancing energy security and the especially in climate vulnerable regions. Key of the questions and to write about the scope and the limiting factors in the growth of solar energy and the measures taken by the government to promote them and directive words discuss. This and all. This and all the implications and the directive, and you must the debate on the proper by going through the details and of the issues and concerned by the examining and although also discuss this is and the all comprising the directive. You must the debates on the proper by going the although and details of the issues and concern by examining each one of them, and you must give reason and for both. Introduction. Since 2011 and India solar sector has grown India's solar sector has grown at the compounded annual growth rate and CAGR of the around 59% and from the less than and 10 MW in 2010, and India has added significant the solar PV capacities and over the past decades and achieving over the 50 GB and by the 2022 and by the 2013, and India is the targeting about the 500 GB and of the renewable energy and development, out of which and 280 GB and is expected from polar PV. Body current status of the solar energy in India. Jawaharlal Nehru and the Nehru National Solar Missions and JNNSS SMN, also known as the National Solar Mission and NSM, which commenced and in the January 2010 marked the first time the government focused on promoting and developing solar power in India. Under the scheme, the total installed and capacities and targeted was set is the 20 GW and by 2022 in 2015 the target was revised and to the 100 GB, and in August 2022 the government and set the solar target of the 3 GW and by the 2030 and India currently ranked and with the fifth after the China, US, Japan and the Germany in terms of the installed and solar power capacity. As of the December 2021, the cumulative solar installed and capacities of the India is 55 GW, which is the roughly and half the renewables and energy and REN capacities, including the large hydropower and 14 of the above. Overall, the power generations and capacities of India and within the 55 GB grid connections and utility and scale the project and contributed the 77% and the rest and comes the from the grid and the connected rooftop of the grid and project scope and opportunities. India being a tropical country is the endowed and with penalty of the solar energy, and hence the exploitation of the solar energies and the become and the important components of renewable energy solar, and India is the endowed with best solar energy and potential above the 5,000 trillion kWh, and per year's energy is the insufficient over India land areas with most parts and receiving the force 7 kWh per square per day, and the Karnataka leads of state and producing the solar energy and with other total installed solar power capacities of about 7100 and the MW, followed by the Telangana, Rajasthan and Andhra Pradesh and Gujarat. Also, India is now the fourth largest solar powers and the plant park in the world, and which is contributed to the operational capacities of the 2245 and MW. Government initiative towards the promotions of the solar energy, National Solar Missions and NSM. The 100 GB solar ambitions aid the heart of the world's largest renewable energy expansion programs and International Solar Alliance in the pursuit to the enhanced solar energy production. India, along with the France, and launching the International Solar Alliance and with the aims to promote the solar energy in 121 and the members countries and to the mobilize the over 1 trillion of investment for the development of solar energy at the affordable and cost 100 GB targeted. The target set by the India for the installed solar energy and capacity is the 100 GB, and by the May 2023 and the 40 GB GW at the rooftop solars and the 60 GW ground mounted and utility and skills and under the one sun and 1 watts and 1 grid. India seeks to replicate and it's the global solar leaderships by the encouraging the phases development of other single and the globally and connected solar electricity grid to leverages the multiple benefits and low cost and the zero population of solar energy. India has the pledges to the mobilize and more than the 1000 billion of investment needed by the 2030 and for massive the development of solar energy and challenges. India solar energies and development is the largely built over the important productions. India is facing challenges and to balance the prioritizing and domestic goals and WTO commitment. India is dependent on the Chinese imports for the solar equipment and such as the solar cell and panels etc. The dumpings on of the productions and is leading to the profits erosions of the local manufacture. Land availability in India and for the solar plant and is less due to high and the population densities and the China's strong the manufacturing base is giving steep and challenges to domestic manufacturing. India the solar wastage and is the estimated to be the around and 1.8 millions by the 2050, which needs to be the tackles and there is settles and the fiscal space and for the large and the public investment in renewables. And while the private and investment is renewables to the scale is just starting the beginning. The willingness of the development countries to make the available low cost finance and requirement technology remains the uncertain way forward. Strong financial measures are requirement to the finance the solar project and innovative state and like the green bond, institutionals and loan and clean energies fund can play a crucial role and the promotions of research and the developing in the renewables and energy sectors and especially in storage technology, along with prioritizing and designing the microgrids and public policy attention is needed for the developing battery technologies as scales and for the locals applications, and India needs other solar waste management manufacturing standard policy. Conclusion: India bid to the play a leadership's role in the settings up of the World Solar Bank is the leadables. It could the galvanize and domestic efforts and give the country other global voice in the push for other clean planet. Question: India government has taken the significant step to promote the electrical vehicles and EVs and adoptions and evolutions. The key factors and limitings and EV and the adoptions and among the masses to 50 watts. Difficulty level and tough. Reference down to the answered by the questions and electrical vehicles are key to the decarbonize and mobility in India. The MBTS and electrifications programs and supported by the upscaled and domestic batteries and manufacturing will the required other squared supply of the batteries material. Key demand of the question and to write about the evolution of India and the move and the towards electrical. Evaluate, and when you are the asking to the evaluate, you have to the pass the sound judgment and about the truth of the giving and statement in the questions and or the topics, and based on the evidence you must appraise the worth of the statement in question, and there is the scope for the farmings on an opinion. Structure of the answer and the introduction started by the describing the electrical vehicles, EV technology, the V's and fossil fuels and based vehicles. First, write about India and the progress in transition and towards the electronic vehicles and EVs, and highlighted the increase in the numbers of the EV sales and the growth of the EV charging infrastructure and the initiatives taken by the automakers and to the introduce and EV the models in the market. And next, the write about the key challenges and the hindrances and widespread EV the adoption in India. Discuss issues such as high upfront and the cost limited and charging the infrastructures and range the access and consumers perception address the need for the addressing and thus the challenges through policy and interventions and the public awareness compositions. Conclusion by the writing forward. Introduction. An electric vehicle uses one or more the electric motors on the transactions motor for the propulsions, and the electric and vehicles and may be the powered and through self-contained battery, solar panel or and the electrical generator and to the convert and fuels to the electricity. India is among the handful of countries and there the support the global EV 30 composition, and which I am sent for the list, and 30% and new the vehicles sales to be the electric by the 2030 body progress of electric vehicles in India. The electrical vehicles and adoptions as to be it the 4, 3 and 2 wheelers and or the buses has been a massive uptick over the past years or so. As an example, and Hero the electricals and India pioneers and electrical two-wheelers and manufacture cooked. It is the highest and the ever calendar years volumes in 2022 with more than the 1 lakhs. 1 lakh units and finding the new homes and across the years, and as fuel the prices and skyrockets, and there are the rising concern about the steep and increase in the cost of the running petrol and the diesel vehicles. Electrical vehicles seems to be coming and into there's the oven and ate the last the Indian electrical vehicles and market was valued and ate the USD and the 1434 and 0.04 the billions in 2021, and it is the expected to the read and USD and 15,397.19 billion by the 2027, registering CAGR of 47.09% during the forecast period 2022 and 27. The National Electrical Mobility Missions Plan NEMMP the faster adoption and the manufacturing of the hybrid and electrical vehicles in India. FAME first and the second had the created the initiative interested the explorers for the electrical mobility to promote the domestic electrical vehicles and industries. The Indian government has provided tax exemptions and the subsidies to the EV manufacturing and the consumers. India shift to shares the electricals and the connected mobility and could help the country and save the nearly 1 gigatons of the carbon dioxide emission by the 2013. Potential of the EVs in India help tackle climate changes and air pollution. India has committed to cutting its the GHG emissions and intensities by the 33% to the 35% below 2005 level by the 2030 as per the Niti Aayog report. And EVs bill in cuttings the down and as the much as the 1 gigatons and GT of the carbon emission and by the 2013, and electrical vehicles and don't the produce the emission that the contributed to the climate challenges and amongst them the conventional vehicles. All electrical vehicles produce the zero direct and the emissions, and which the especially help the improve all air qualities in urban areas according to the recent study by WHO. India is home to the 14 out of the 20 most populated cities in the world, and EVs and will help in the take links and this the problems and by the reducing local concentrations of the pollutant in cities, cost reductions from the better electricity generation technologies, and this has the introduced the possibilities of the clean and low carbon and the inexpensive grids. Energy security in India import oil to the cover and over the 80% of the its transport fuel and electrical mobilities, and will the contributor to balancing energy demand and energy storage and the environmental sustainability. Electrical vehicles could help the diversified and the energy and needed to the move peoples and goods the thanks and to their the reliance on the wide mix of the primarily energy and sources used in the power generation, greatly improving the energy security. Cutting edge and the battery technology. Advance in the battery technology have led to the higher energy and the densitize and faster changing and reduce the battery degradation from the chargings and innovations, and whereas the manufacturing capabilities and build the promotes and global skills and competition in employment and promotion of the EBS and build the facilitated in employment growth in the sunrises sectors and the challenges adaptation of the EBS. Despite being and the third largest auto and market and the several intensive and the decided out by the New Delhi and the state government and India remain other least in the electrical vehicles EV. The country is the reap targeted for the EV markers and what is other slow and to catch up and with the others market, and according to the recent report by the S&P Global rating domestic sales of the EVs and has more than doubled and but they the barely and represented 2% of the total slides and the vehicles sales in the last 12 months, and India is the technologically deficits in the productions of the electricals, and that forms the backbones of the EV industry and such as the batteries, semiconductor controller, etc. The lack of the clarities and over the AC versus and DC and charging the stations, grid stabilities and the range and anxieties fears that battery will soon and run out of powers and hinders the growth of EV industry. India is dependent on the countries like Japan and China and for the import of the lithium-ion batteries. EVs has higher serving cost and the higher and levels of skill is needed for the surviving India's lack and dedicated the training courses for the such skills development and affordabilities of e-vehicles and EV and the range and they can the cover on the single batteries charges. Various measures are taken by the government to promote the electrical vehicle. Most recently, government think tank Niti Aayog has prepared other draft batteries swinging policies and under which it has proposed the offered and incentives to the electrical vehicles and EVs and with the swappable and batteries and subsidized into the companies manufacturing and the swappables and the batteries are the new batteries as other service and business model and the standard for the interchangeable and batteries and among the other measures. Government had set the target of the electrical vehicles making up on the 30% of the new sales of the car and the two vehicles by the 2030 to build other sustainable EV ecosystems and initiative like the National Electrical Mobility Mission Plan and NEMP and the faster adaptation and the manufacturing of the hybrid and electrical vehicles in India and FAME India have been the launched by the India's and the NEMP. MMP was launched and with and the aims to the achieve the nationals and fuel security by the promoting hybrid and the electrical vehicles in the country. And FAME India schemes and was launched and with the objectives and to support the hybrid electrical vehicles and markets development and manufacturing ecosystem, and the Union Power Ministry and categorize the changings of the batteries as other service and which will help the charging stations and operated the without license. Implementation of the smart cities and would also the boost the growth of the electrical vehicles way forward. for EVs to contributed effectively, and we need the commensurate effort in the developing and the entire ecosystem. Need to the shift the focus from the subsidizing vehicles to the subsidizing batteries, because the batteries make up 50% of the EV cost, and increasing the focus on the extensive electrical two vehicles, and because two vehicles wheelers and account for the 76% of the vehicles in the country and consume cost of the fuel. A wide network of the chargings and stations and is the immediate of attracting investment workplaces in tech park and public has the depots. Public has the depots and the multiplexes and are the potential places where the chargings and points could be the installed in the Bengaluru. Some the malls have chargings and point in the parking lots, and corporated could invested in the charging station as the corporated social responsibility complies in addressing the technical concern like the AC versus DC charging station and handling of the peak demand and grid stability, etc. India needs to leap into EV batteries and manufacturing private investment in batteries and manufacturing plants and developing low cost productions and technologies needed. Need for the policy roadmap on the electrical vehicles so that the investment and can be the planned acquiring and the lithium field in the Bolivia, Australia and Chile could becomes and the important is buying oil the field as the India needs raw materials to make the batteries for the electrical vehicles, providing waivers of the road tax and the registration fees and GST, the refunds and the free parking space for EVs. There is also the task of the bringing and skills professionals into the workforces and that are the knowledgeable about the benefits and the advantage association with electrical vehicles. Thank you guys. Bye bye.